Hey guys, my name is Kurayami and welcome back to another chapter of Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. We are on chapter 9 and Angel is awake and getting around, so let's see what goes on from here. Dressing was all Angel managed to do the first few days out of bed. After a week on her feet, she ventured outside. It gave Michael an odd pang to see her in Tessie's clothes. No two women could have been more different. Tess, sweet and caring, uncomplicated and open. Mara, cold and indifferent, complex and closed. Tessie, dark and muscular. Mara, blonde and slender. Michael didn't try to fool himself that she'd come outside because she was lonely and wanted his company. She was just tired of being cooped up in the cabin. She was bored. But Angel was lonely, and because of it, she was edgy and defensive when Michael approached. After all, she didn't want him getting any wrong ideas. "When do I start plowing the fields?" she said dryly. "In the fall." She glanced up at him sharply. Michael laughed and brushed the hair off her shoulder. "You feel up to taking a little walk?" "How far?" "Until you say stop." He took her hand, trying not to let it bother him that hers lay like a dead fish in his. Passive resistance. He showed her the corn crib and the gear shed, and he took her to the lodge bridge over the stream where he planned to build the spring house and store meat and dairy products when he could afford to buy a cow. He walked her along the pathway to the small barn and showed her the 2 draft horses. He painted out the fields he had plowed and planted, and then he took her out to the open meadowland. "I started out west with 8 oxen and ended up with the 2 you see out there." "What happened to the rest?" "Indians stole one, and 5 died in harness. It was a hard going," he said. "Animals weren't the only ones dying along the Humboldt sink." Michael looked down at her and saw how pale she was. She wiped perspiration from her forehead and went with the back of her hand. He asked if she wanted to head back, and she said no. He headed back anyways. She was played out and too stubborn to admit it. Lord, is she going to be this bull-headed about everything? On the way back to the cabin, Michael showed her where he wanted to put a grape arbor. "We'll sit beneath it on hot days. There's nothing smells better than grapes ripening in the sun. We'll add a bedroom and kitchen, put up a porch on the west side, so we can sit in the evenings and watch the sunset and the stars come out. On hot summer afternoons, we'll sip apple cider and watch the corn grow. And children, someday, God willing." Her stomach dropped. "You've enough work planned out to last a long while." Michael tipped her chin and looked straight into her eyes. "It'll take us a lifetime, Mara." She jerked her chin away. "Don't get pinning your hopes on me, mister. I have my own plans, and they don't include you." She went the rest of the way by herself. The walk had been good for her, but she was exhausted. Still, she didn't want to go inside. She dragged his chair out the door so she could sit in the open. She wanted to feel the warmth of the sun on her face. She wanted to smell the fresh air. A soft afternoon breeze played with her hair, and she could smell the earth, strong and rich. Her muscles loosened, and she closed her eyes. Michael returned from work to find her sleeping. Not even the bruises darkening her eyes and jaw marred her look of peace. He took a trundle of her hair and rubbed it between his fingers. It was silk. She moved slightly. He looked at the slender column of her white throat and watched the steady pulse there. He longed to lean down and press his mouth to it. He wanted to breathe in the scent of her. Lord, I love her. But is it always going to feel like this? Like there's an ache inside of me I've never get over? Angel roused. She opened her eyes and startled, seeing Hosea standing above her. The sun was behind him, and she couldn't see his face or guess what he was thinking. She pushed her hair back and looked away. "How long have I been sitting here?" You look peaceful. Sorry if I awakened you. You got some color on your cheeks. She touched them and felt the warmth. I had red to the black and blue. Are you hungry? She was. You might want to start teaching me to cook, she winced from the pain as she got up and followed him inside. She would need to know how to cook for herself when she had a place of her own. The first thing you have to do is to get a good fire laid. He poked the coals into the fiery bed and added more wood. He went out with the bucket and came back with a chunk of salted venison. He cut it into pieces and dropped them into the boiling pot. Angel could smell the pungent herbs as he rubbed them between his palms and dropped them into the bubbling water. We'll leave that cooking for a while. Come on outside with me. He took a basket and she followed him to the vegetable garden. Hunkering down, he showed her how to tell which carrots and onions were ready for harvest. He pulled up a mature potato plant. She didn't want to admit she was astonished. Had anyone asked, she would have said potatoes come from Ireland. The one plant he pulled up produced enough potatoes to last several days. As Angel straightened, she saw Hosea hunkering down a few feet away, yanking plants up and tossing them aside. A piercing recollection of Mama in the moonlight gardening froze her. Why are you tearing up your garden? Michael glanced up at her tone. Her face was white and drawn. He straightened and brushed his hands on his pants. I'm pushing up weeds. They're choking everything else. I haven't had time to work out here. One of the things I'll ask of you is tending the garden, when you're ready. He picked up the basket and nodded towards the hills. There are other foodstuffs growing wild. Chicory, mustard, and miner's lettuce mostly. I'll teach you what to look out for. Down the creek a half a mile are blackberries. They'll become ripe in the late summer. There are blueberries half a mile up the hill. We've got apples and walnuts as well. He handed her the basket. You can wash those vegetables in the creek. She did what he told her and came back into the cabin. Michael showed her how to peel and pare them and left her to it. Meat was boiling in the pot over the fire, and he took an iron hook and slid the pot to the outer edge of the fire. Stir it once in a while. I'm going out to see to the stock. The students seemed to be boiling fast enough, so Angel slid the pot back over the fire again. Then it boiled too fast, and she slid it away. She hovered, stirring and sliding and stirring. The heat and work were draining. She brushed the damp strands of her hair back from her forehead. Her eyes smarted from the smoke. Michael came in with a bucket of water. He slammed it down, sloshing on the floor. Watch out! He caught her arm and yanked her back from the fire. What are you doing? Your skirt's smoking. In another minute, you had been in flames. I had to get close enough to stir the stew. The pot's lid was banging the metal boiling over the sides and hissing on the red coals. Without thinking, she grabbed the handle. She yelped and swore violently and snatched the hook down again. Easy, Michael warned, but she was in no mood to listen. She yanked too hard and dislodged the bar. It clanged and the pot fell, dumping the contents. The fire hissed and sputtered violently. A cloud of smoke billowed and filled the cabin with a horrible stench of burning stew. She couldn't even do this right. Angel threw the iron hook into the fireplace with the mess and sat in the willow chair. Leaning forward, she held her aching ribs. Michael opened up 2 windows and the door, and the smoke began to clear. Teeth clenched, Angel watched as a piece of venison go up in flames. Your dinner's ready, mister. He tried not to smile. You'll do better next time. She glared at him. I don't know anything about cooking. I don't know a weed from a carrot, and if you set me behind your plow, you won't have a straight furrow worth planting. She stood. You want me to work? Fine, I'll work. The only way I know how. Right here, she said, pointing at his bed. Right now, if you like, mister. If the bed doesn't suit your fancy, how about the floor? Or your stable? Or anywhere else you'd like. Wherever you want, just let me know. He let out a breath. It's only a pot of stew, Mara. She seethed with frustration. How did a saint like you pick me? Are you testing your faith? Is that it? She swept past him and went outside. She wanted to run away but couldn't. Every step hurt, and she barely made it to the field before she had to stop and get her breath. He had jarred her when he pulled her away from the fire, and she hurt all over. But the physical pain was nothing to her own self-disgust and humiliation. She was stupid. She didn't know anything. How was she going to manage on her own if she couldn't cook a simple meal? She didn't even know how to build a fire. She didn't know anything necessary to survive. You're going to learn. Oh no, I'm not. I'm not asking for his help. I'm not going to owe him anything. She clenched her burned hand into a fist. I didn't ask him to come back. I didn't ask for any of this. She went down to the creek and soaked her hand and nursed her grievances. Well guys, that was end of chapter 9. I think chapter 9. Yeah, chapter 9. It's a little shorter than the others. I'm sorry if my camera kept shaking because my table kept moving. So hopefully that doesn't mess with you or anything like that. It's shaking again. I keep hitting it. I don't know why. But anyways, if you want to see more or listen to more, whatever you're doing, feel free to comment, like, comment, and subscribe. I can't talk today, obviously. But do whatever you want. I don't really care. But I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.